Typescript Prerequisites for React. That's what we'll cover today, and they'll be pretty quick and easy to understand, and you'll be able to apply them in your React apps right away. Let's get started.
So just to get started right away, open up your Visual Studio Code, pull out a PowerShell terminal, and install TypeScript. So I'm going to do npm install TypeScript --save-dev to install it locally to this project, get you the latest version. Now, it will create for you, if you open up your node modules TypeScript, you'll see it creates for you a package.json. Now you're going to want to create a tsconfig.json. You can put it in the same folder as your ts file out. So we'll call it tsconfig, all lowercase, .json. And there's a whole lot you can put in here. We're just going to put the most basic required item for what we're testing today, which is to tell it that we want to transpile into ECMAScript 6 when we turn our TypeScript into JavaScript. So go ahead and save that, and then you can go back to your TS file. So in TypeScript, the keyword type is just an alias to an existing type, predefined type, or a user custom defined type. So for example, let's say we have type color. We can set that to the string blue or the string red, and then anytime you create a variable of that type color that you defined, it can only be accepted by one of those examples there. There are many other uses for type. You could do much more complex things, but that's good enough for now. Now let's talk about interfaces. Interfaces allow you to define contracts within your code and contracts with code outside of your project on how your code should look. More about the type checking the shape of values. So here's an example here, a very, very basic example, an interface of type bookstore. You could use it similar to the types, and if you define a bookstore, my store, you would have to give it the values that match the types within that interface. So we've got a number and we've got a string, and so in this example here, in a function, we can define that the inbound parameter has to match those values, and it has to return a bookstore as well. So when it comes to React, we're going to use contracts or interfaces as contracts to define what our parameters must look like and what our state must look like. So we'll cover that shortly. So the next great feature I'm going to show you in TypeScript that will help you in React is not even really necessarily a TypeScript language type feature, but it's going to be more of a combination of TypeScript working with your IDE, Visual Studio Code. So if you go into your package.json file, you look at there's dev dependencies here, and if you kind of start looking at some of these, they're all there's a whole bunch of these that say types in front of it, and those are going to be the types that are going to help you in your IDE. So let's just take a look at that first one, octokit/rest. You don't really have to know what that does. I'm just going to use it as an example. So go to your browser and just search for octokit.rest, and it'll be your first result. And if you just go ahead and take that npm install command there and run that in your Visual Studio Code, it'll go ahead and install it for you. It'll connect to Git and pull it down. And then to go back to that website and just take the example usage there and put it in your Visual Studio Code in your TypeScript file. And then if you just take the that first line where it imports the library, and you bring it up to the top of your file and you change it, and let's just remove everything else just so we don't get confused here. If you change it from require, if you change it to import and just the octokit, and you just say from, just like that, without the brackets, and save it, you can now press F12 or just hover, and it kind of gives you all this intelligence about how things are supposed to work. You see that? And you can also kind of do that right in here too. Like on the repos, you can hit F12 there, and it'll take you right into the documentation of the library. This is some fantastic stuff here. It's got all kinds of IntelliSense for you, all kinds of information about the types that are accepted. This here is TypeScript. As you can see, It takes either org or type or sort or direction. So take advantage of that. The next thing I want to show you is more valuable than anything I've shown you so far, and it's much more important than anything any of my basic TypeScript skills could tell you. Even developers much better than me would say, is to go to these two websites and bookmark them. Follow the documentation. The ECMAScript 6, or if you're watching this video in the future, maybe it'll be 7 or something like that, and the TypeScript handbook. So those URLs, I'll paste them in the comments so you can read them there. But make sure you go through all of the ECMAScript examples first, so that you understand all the JavaScript behind that TypeScript will be creating, and then also look at all of the TypeScript examples as you go through, and then we'll switch to React. So look for these in the comments. Alright, switching gears a little bit now. I've just opened a React app that I made for one of our previous videos, and all I did was in the command line I did create-react-app space video test 2, the name of the project, and then space --template space TypeScript. It created this app. Then I created this components folder, and I created a file named mycomponenta.tsx. As you can see, I've added just import from React, export default class, and a simple render method. There's really nothing in this component. Then I went over to the app.tsx, and I imported my component directly right here as component A, and then I put the tag component A. And so component A has hello from my component, which shows up right here on the top of the React boilerplate. So now we're ready to put some TypeScript in here to make it a little bit more interesting, just to show you how it works. So first, let's create a models folder in the same level as components. So I'll go to my source, new folder, models. In our models folder, we're going to create a new file. We're going to call it mymodel.a.ts. It does not need to be a TSX. And in here, we're just going to put an interface. Make sure to put the word export first so we can access it from elsewhere. So we'll do export interface, and we'll call it the same as the file name, mymodel.a.ts. Now you can put more than one of these in one file. Sorry, mymodel.a, not .ts. You can put more than one of these in a file if you'd like. Now just do like we did earlier. Let's define a couple numbers, a couple strings. You can put more complex things in here like objects and arrays. So let's do name, string, age, number. And we can save that. Now we can access this elsewhere. So now we're going to want to bring that model into our component. So we'll do import, and we'll do myModel from, now // is going to be the directory that we're in. And we're going to want to go up one level. So we'll do // to go up a level. And then we'll go into models, and there it is there. If I hover, just saying we haven't used it yet. That's all that's saying. So this is where it gets interesting. So I prepared for you a replacement for this line. It's going to explain a little bit about what we're talking about here. So we've got my model here, which I've imported from models, and I've used it twice. I also added added default that was missing here. So what's going on here is we're saying that my model is the interface that is going to define what the props should look like, and it also should define the type of variables that the state should look like. So we're not saying that you have to pass in state as a parameter here. We're just saying that when you use state within this component, this is how it should be defined. And same thing with the props here. We're saying this is how the props should look. The constructor parameter here is saying what how the prop should come in. We're calling the super of the constructor, if there is another constructor above, and then here we're defining the state to be copied in from the props into the state. Now state is just a object that holds data, and whenever it is changed, it holds data within the context of this class, and this class is our component A. Whenever that data is changed, the render method will be called again. So now what we can do is we can do interesting things, like we can say this.state.age. We could say, hello, I am age years old. And now we can go ahead and update our component call to have a parameter. So if we go back over to my component A, so it needs to get parameters. So we need to import the model. So we'll do import my model A from /models/my model A. And we've got our return here, so let's go right above return, still in the function app, and we'll do let my model, just to give it a new name, let's call it my model X equals my model A, and we'll assign those two types there that we have a string and a number for name and age. So we'll do name is going to be Chris, and age is going to be 38. And now let's go ahead and pass that as a parameter here. And you can do that with the spread operator. So if we just drop in the triple dots with our model X there, making sure to put our curly braces, that should do it. So let's save all and go back to the browser. And as you can see, it's telling you I'm 38 years old. So now you've seen how those interfaces can help you out. There's a ton more that you can learn. I haven't even scratched the surface of the basics. I think the next things that you'll want to look up is going to be routing, context, and hooks. And I would say routing and hooks first, and then context. And that will get you through some more of the basics. Talk to you soon. Thank you.